It's an unusual environment for ESA astronaut Alexander Gerst's daily run, a Japanese park. This is Tsukuba, north of Tokyo, location of the Technical and Training Center of JAXA, the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Space Agency. Tsukuba is a mandatory stop for all astronauts preparing for a mission aboard the International Space Station. Complementing training in Houston and Star City, Tsukuba is where Alexander Gerst is learning how to work with the Japanese elements of the ISS.
I train on the Japanese payload experiments that I will perform in the Japanese laboratory while I'm up there. And it's actually a really nice set of experiments that I'm just preparing for. And it's also an exciting thing to train something that you will do on orbit a few months later. You will do exactly the same moves, the same grips. And that all makes it even more exciting than the generic training that you do years before the flight, where you train for something that you might or might not do. It's just preparing you for the general situations. And now I'm actually doing things with my hands that I know, and in 3 months of time I will do up there.
In Tsukuba, Alexander Gerst and another ESA astronaut, Samantha Cristoforetti, are getting used to the Japanese experimental laboratory Kibo, which means hope in Japanese. Kibo has a large volume with a full set of racks hosting several experiments to be conducted not only by Japanese astronauts but also by all ISS partners. Therefore, the Italian astronaut, who will fly at the end of 2014, also needs to get used to the Japanese activities of the space station.
So I am here as in my backup flow, so I'm getting ready to be the backup crew in just a couple of months. And so I'm getting ready basically for all the tasks that the prime crew is scheduled to do, because in case I had to fly in that place, I need to be ready for those tasks as well. So some of them are maintenance tasks, some of them are routine tasks, and a lot of it, of course, is science experiments.
In fact, the ESA astronauts work on many different elements of the Japanese module. Here, Alexander Gerst is learning how to use the Japanese robotic arm that can be used for transferring things to a platform on the outside of ISS for exposure to open space conditions. So the astronauts must get accustomed to equipment covering a large variety of space research. For example, this experiment about plants and preparing them for growth in a cell biology incubator facility. They need to know how to manipulate a heating furnace for checking the samples of semiconductor crystals in microgravity. Or learn to work on protein crystallization tests developed by Japanese scientists.
And that's it?
That's it, and close it.
Alexander is also learning how to use one particular Japanese element of the ISS, an airlock which can be used for launching small satellites in space. It's another new approach from Japan. So both ESA astronauts get explanations from the Japanese on how to conduct experiments, how to manipulate its elements, learning to be the future arms in space of the Japanese scientists.
I'm like a laboratory worker. I'm the leveraged arm of the science team on the ground, and I work with them together. In fact, they're on call when I work on an experiment, and if I have the question, I can ask the principal investigating scientists of that project, of that experiment, which is great because they're top-notch scientists, the leading scientists from all over the world that I can talk to. So it's a great privilege for me, and I'm very excited to work on these experiments.
Tsukuba Space Center is now fully part of the training for all ISS astronauts. They can keep up their normal routine like Samantha Cristoforetti in the gym with a Japanese instructor. And they get to meet all those who contribute to the work on the ISS and have the unique opportunity to share know-how with all the international partners.
I guess it has a very Japanese flavor to it. I mean, the content and the way the content is presenting and delivered is pretty much standardized. But of course, the instructors are Japanese. They have that very polite, very kind Japanese way about them. And of course, in the breaks, we got to talk a little bit about their country and their culture and their food and the things to do around Tsukuba. So the flavor of it is different. The content, of course, is very, very standardized.
So Samantha rides her bicycle in the Japanese center, while Alex runs in the Japanese park. This is a great illustration of how the ISS works, a true international endeavor. where people from different cultures meet and work for the same goal.